Guys, welcome to Chatting Tales with Jen. How you doing? Uh, I'm having a hard time. Um, my heart's breaking, and it's been broken before, and so it's a very familiar feeling, but I haven't had it in so many years. I just needed to get on here and talk about it out loud. Um, my husband Mike is not. He listens well, but he's not one for giving feedback. If you know, you know. You can sit and have a conversation with somebody, and it's constantly going back and forth and commenting on what somebody said. No, it's like he takes everything in that I say, but nothing comes out. So I'm always saying, "What do you think? What do you think?" Um, I think he's a deep thinker. I don't know because he doesn't say, but I read his actions a lot. That's that's the gift of an empath, and a person with a lot of empathy, an empathetic wife. So I looked that up to see if that's what's going on with me. This constant ache right here since since his sudden illness. And he went back to work yesterday, well, last night, for the first time since being sick, and he didn't sound good. His voice was back sounding like it did when he had his first episode of his hypertension crisis. But he had taken his blood pressure machine with him, and he checked it at work. And the girl he was working with, she was joking with him and said, "I don't want your wife to come after me. You better take a break." So she did a lot of the active work and kind of let him take it easy at the register. I thought that was really good of her to do that. So his heart rate, however, was over 100. I got home about 11:30, 11:40 at night, and I was like, well, maybe we should go in. Um, his blood pressure was fine. It was really good for a change. For him, it was 140 over like 72 or something. It's really awesome. Or no, 110 over. I don't know. It was very good. So, but his voice being that if you've heard somebody almost like they have bronchitis or something, and it's the real hoarse is what he sounded like. And yeah. So, as an empathetic person, I think I've mentioned this before, and maybe you're just one of these people. Maybe you're not an empath, but because he is the way he is, and because I've done it all my life, as far as observing people, I read body language like mad. And a lot of times I'm correct in determining what that person's feeling or what's something's going on. So I looked this up to see the evidence. Is there evidence, or am I just going off on a different thought train? So I typed in how an empathetic wife treats her husband, and I found it kind of interesting. It says an empathetic wife treats her husband with a deep, intuitive understanding of his feelings, needs, and perspectives. Um, yeah, her actions are guided by compassion, active listening, and a commitment to creating a safe and supportive emotional environment. This differs from codependency because her care is balanced with healthy boundaries and self awareness. And that's one of the things that I was concerned with, and I was talking to my therapist about was, gosh, am I codependent? And she says, I don't know about that. I don't think so. Maybe a little bit, but I don't know. So looking this up, I'll also kind of answer that question for myself. The reason I feel like I'm codependent is because I have such an attachment. Not only do I don't do well on my own, meaning emotionally. Um, the depression gets really bad. I can live alone. I've done it before. I can, handle my bills and everything. Um, Couple of things I struggle with still is going to the mailbox. It's a mental thing. Um, I guess my fear is becoming afraid to go out the door because that's what happened to me before. I also became afraid to touch my sink. So, anyway, if you're interested in this kind of subject, stick with me. Sometimes I do ramble on, but like I said, I do rewatch these as part of my own therapy, and I've always been good at telling other people if they ask me. Been told I give good advice, so this is a way of listening to myself and then looking at that girl and saying, "Hey, this is what you do," and it's really working. Um, so, all right, back to the subject. In communication, an empathetic wife's communication style is thoughtful, compassionate, focusing on connection and validation rather than quick fixes or winning arguments. So there you go. That's what I go on and on, and there's always more to it. Tell me more. Tell me more. And he's also an empath, I feel. So it's probably a little uncomfortable for him to actually um, get it out there, like maybe what he's feeling about his own health thing. The I don't want to burden her. She's already got problems. So I always tell him, I'm here for you. You've been there for me, and I'm here for you too. And I see that he is starting to accept that. So that's a good thing. She listens with intent. She practices active listening, giving her husband her full attention without interrupting. Can't say I don't interrupt. Sometimes I do. I catch myself though right away. I was, oops, I'm sorry. What were you saying? Um, yeah. She listens to understand his thoughts and emotions, not just to form her own reply. That's me. I want to understand. She validates feelings. Instead of dismissing or minimizing his feelings, she acknowledges their validity. She might say, I can see why that's frustrating, or I'm sorry you feel let down, to show that she hears and accepts his emotional reality. And I think we may speak that way because not only do we care about that person, but it's part of that talking to somebody or treating someone how we want to be talked to or treated as, right? Um, She uses I statements. During disagreements, she takes responsibility for her own feelings by using I statements, such as, I feel hurt when, instead of blaming him with statements like, you always. And I really do talk like that. I didn't used to, but after a few relationships and reflecting on those and the communication problems, that's one of the things I thought of was, um, that person's always blaming me. My ex, that did me really wrong was a kind that would say, "Look what you made me do," or "I did this because you did that." And after years of that, I really just started thinking about that, and I learned from that. So, not ever wanting somebody else to feel the way I felt. I'm I'm very careful to word my statements as well. I feel, or when you say that, um, I kind of feel like this way. Sometimes I'll say it does make me feel this way, but even that to me can sound like a little blaming instead of keeping it. It kind of makes it personal instead of keeping it about the words or about the intention, because that's what I want to do. I want to keep the conversation out here between us and not his words getting into me like a personal attack where mine go in there too. um, Avoids contempt. She sidesteps corrosive behaviors like sarcasm, eye rolling, or belittling, which create distance and erode trust. That's always been a sore spot with me. I don't know why. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that, like when my ex, he would say something in front of other people. And I think he did that because he knew that there would be no retaliation at that point, that he could get that dig in with no consequences. And it was because I didn't want to embarrass him. I didn't want to call him out and make him feel like I was feeling. And I should have stood up for myself more. But I'm not going to apologize to myself or anybody for being who I am. And that's my line. That's my choice. And being aware of my choice that way, um, there is no excuse. There is no that person is allowed to think and say what they want to, but it's up to me on how I take that, how I accept that, or if I rebuke it. And I hope that helps somebody else that maybe feels victimized, or I used to feel that way constantly, or blame them and say, poor me, pity me, they did this to me and that's why I can't do this or I can't do that. Um, the negativity, and replaying in my head because it was just automatic. Sift through it over and over, sift through it, sift through it. What could I have changed? What was my fault? What did I do wrong? And the reality was, I wasn't finding anything because there wasn't anything to find. And not being confident enough to accept that my answer to myself was enough. Um, so going to counseling, going to therapy, going through all the things, um, hearing feedback, being able to speak to someone that didn't use my words against me, but used my words to build me up, gave them back to me, um, to build my own foundation, and telling me that actually my my thinking wasn't incorrect. That maybe, just maybe, the reason I was treated the way I was by certain people was they could not relate, or they knew they couldn't be that way, couldn't understand why I was that way or how I did the things that I did. Maybe it made them feel insecure, but there again, it was their choice to feel that way. So uh, after these 3 years, and not I haven't talked to her in so long, and then going back this earlier this year, she said how much she says, "Wow, you're a different person than the one I met a few years ago." And I thanked her. I said, she said, "So, what brings you back this time?" And I said, I just need some fine tuning. I've gone so far. I just feel like I need to check in. Like I needed some more and some new kind of tools, or learning how to develop new tools as I need them to deal with new feelings, new life situations. And now that Mike has become ill, actually, the same things that I have now, not the mental illness part, but the heart failure and the kidney failure. And he may have lung cancer. We don't know that yet. He has a saying, he says, cancer schmancer. uh, that's how we gotta be, you know. I had it 9 days, and that was it. I hope that if he does have it, it goes just as well for him. The scariest part for me, and I know it's going to turn out for my good, I do know that, but I'm human. And I have the fear that here I am, I'm going to be alone. And it's not just being alone, is losing his income. I may lose my apartment, I may lose my vehicle, things like that. And I don't have any friends here to speak of. Like, well, I do have a couple of friends, but they don't drive. They live kind of far away, things like that. So I would have to try and rely on a transportation, which is not reliable, as far as they only go to certain places on certain days of the week. So I would have to try to get an appointment um, during certain times. My experience with them has been when they took me to a medical appointment. My appointment went over half an hour, which was not my fault. I was sitting there that entire time. My appointment was maybe 15 minutes, if that. But my doctor was late. I was waiting on her. And so by the time I got back out to the transportation, she read me the riot act as if I was a little kid. How dare I? And at the time, I was in a wheelchair, and she didn't want to load my wheelchair. Even though the van had a wheelchair lift, she didn't want to do that. She said, "You can stand and walk. I suggest you do that." Which I did. I usually did that. It was just the attitude. And when I called to, emailed to make a complaint about her driving and everything, which I had intended to do that before she even treated me that way. Um, Come to find out, there was only the two people there, her supervisor and herself, and they're besties. So I was told that it was investigated and there wasn't a problem. So I was talking to my manager here. As I told you, I'm in subsidized housing. Um, Come to find out, my landlord here, my manager here, they're all in the same system. So that didn't do me any good either. She said there's nobody, um, she said there's nobody else to complain to. I got on the state website, I got on the county, I told my caseworker about it. Um, there was nothing I could do. So, if you have any ideas, let me know. Back to this. In showing support as an empathetic wife, she provides emotional and practical support by intuitively sensing her husband's needs and responding with acts of compassion. This is a funny story. This happens all the time. He can look a direction, not even looking at anything specific, but he'll stand there and like scan the room. Like he's looking, you can tell he's looking for something. And I'll get up, walk over, and pick up, oh, here's your key. And he looks at me, he goes, how did you know that? I said, I don't know. It's just when you're with somebody for so long, you just kind of get this mental telepathic connection, I think. And he's done the same thing to me. I was laying here the other day playing on my tablet, and he suddenly reached over, and I told you he's like not a touchy person, but he just reached over and just real lightly on my shoulder, and I had an itch there, and I said, how'd you know I had an itch there? Just teasing him. He says, oh, I'm just that good. But seriously though, he does anticipate my needs as well, and I think that's the biggest heartbreak is the possibility of losing my best friend. And I went into the bathroom this morning while he was in there, and I said, "Can I do something for you?" He says, "What?" He's looking at his Facebook, and I said, "I just want to know if it's all right to touch you." And he goes, "What are you gonna do to me?" I said, "Oh, I just." He just woken up. I said, I just want to wash your face and stuff. And he's okay. And as I was doing that, I felt like I was serving my husband. But if you're Christian, you know what that means. To be of service, to be a helpmate as a wife. So I gently used the warm wash rag and I wiped his face and his eyes. I was so careful to get every detail. Memorize it. Behind his ears, his neck. Just take it in every second of that. These aren't sad tears. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have this time, to be alive and share this time of life with all of you. And I'm so thankful to Jesus for lifting me out of the pit I was in. I had a vision. One of my lowest points, I had a vision come to me. I was standing on the sidewalk. This was not my vision, but this is what I was doing at the time I had the vision. I was standing on the sidewalk waiting for my friend to come out of a gas station. I had already been in there and come out and was waiting because it was crowded. And as I was standing there, suddenly everything around me changed. I wasn't on a sidewalk anymore. I was placed on this big rock in the middle of this river, and the river was rushing by so fast. And it was such a surreal thing. It was, gosh, am I crazy? What is this? And I felt the presence of God right there. And I knew that it had to have been a communication like the torment I was in. That was actually the day that I sold my horses. And we had just gotten back into town, and that's what we were doing at the gas station, getting fuel, relieving ourselves, things like that. And I had been standing there on the sidewalk, kind of reflecting on what had occurred, and sort of relieved that now I had the finances to pay for my divorce attorney. And at the same time, kind of wishing things had worked out differently. That that he wouldn't have cleaned me out. That we could have just split amicably. Amicably. You know what I'm trying. Oh, I say it in my head just fine, but it doesn't come out. Um, it's an age thing, I think. Um, I never treated him unkind. He had cheated on me several times, and I ignored it. I didn't ignore it, I just didn't bring it up. And he knew that I knew. And he would come to me and he'd say, I'm not going to do that no more. And I'd say, well, why don't you just not come back? Why don't I just leave? And he'd say, the last time, this was about the third time, um, he said, I'll help you pack. And he was very eager to get me out. So it stung, but I felt empowered. I felt free. As I was driving away, actually, the song came on the radio. Bye bye, I'll catch you later. My foot down on the accelerator, your rear view mirror, not looking back. That when that song came on, that was the first time I had heard that, and I just turned it all the way up, and I really felt that song at that time, and got to where I was going, and yeah, it's brief moments, just a little sparkle, just a little shine when you're going through something really terrible, and but that wasn't the last time he did it. But he came begging me back and everything, and I was foolish. I went and bought a house, and I did everything. Bought him a horse, bought him a saddle, and he used me for that. And I lost my job at the cash advance, and I decided to open my own business, and that's what I did. And because I didn't have the steady paycheck coming in. Oh, I had 401k. I had money in the bank. I was so fine. Um, he was going around telling people, even the woman that he was leaving me for, that I refused to get a job, that I was lazy, and that got to me. Um, I didn't go off on him. I felt that it was his problem. I really felt that it was his problem, and he was a liar, and that she could have him. But that's what an empathetic wife does. And if you ever get to that point where you just feel like a doormat, or feel like everybody's taking advantage of you, um, maybe go inside of yourself and determine that you're kind. You're just very kind. And maybe you just need to get some tools and learn how to make your boundaries and things. Once I figured that out, I'm good. I'm good with myself. I don't feel like a victim anymore. But I still battle it. You're always gonna have battles. So, but not the same and not as deep, and they don't last as long. I don't know if I said this part already, as like I said, I get off track. But she offers unconditional support. She stands by her husband during both good times and bad, cheering for his dreams and offering encouragement when he is struggling or doubting himself. And that's where it came in, where I was giving that all the time. I was putting out all that all the time, all that love, all that empathy. And what I didn't realize was I wasn't keeping some for myself. I wasn't getting anything in return. And how long can a person go just recycling their own thoughts and their own energy? And I'm here to tell you, I went years and years, but it did a lot of damage. It was like running your car engine with no oil in it, or never changing the oil, and you can really damage it. I damaged my mind, I damaged my emotions, my trust. A lot of things were broken. Um, I guess the best way to explain the way I felt was like a crystal ball that was shattered into millions of pieces that could never be put back. Even if they were put back, it would never look the same. I would never be the same. So, anticipates needs. Her sensitivity allows her to pick up on subtle cues that others might miss, and she may anticipate his needs before he even voices them. Offers compassionate action. Her empathy turns into action. When he has a difficult day, she might make his favorite meal or take over some chores to lighten his load without being asked. I have been doing that quite a bit. I've been pushing myself physically to do things. I think I've mentioned that before, to do things that normally physically I can't do. It does take me a lot longer, but I'm doing it and I feel like I'm contributing. In managing the relationship, an empathetic wife contributes to the relationship's long term health by fostering connection, showing patience, and maintaining her own well being. Nurtures intimacy. She makes an effort to stay connected by scheduling one on one time, asking thoughtful questions, and engaging in deeper conversations about their shared dreams and hopes. I'm here to tell you every other day we're doing that, and that part does go both ways. Practices for patience and forgiveness. When her husband makes a mistake, she responds with grace rather than criticism. She is quick to forgive and let go of grudges, fostering a nurturing and resilient environment. Models healthy boundaries, recognizing that she can become emotionally overwhelmed by absorbing others' feelings. She knows how to set healthy boundaries. As I said, it took me a while to learn that one. She communicates her need for alone time to recharge, which ultimately helps her be more present in the relationship. That one there, we both do that. We both need that time. It's never, that part's never been talked about between us. It's kind of like an unspoken thing. um like he'll go sit in the living room and watch his videos and I'm in the bedroom, or we'll just spend that quiet time not talking, just kind of staying out of each other's way. um and I think that's what we have in common, a big thing that we have in common. She inspires his growth by accepting her husband and believing in him. She inspires his personal growth. This is a supportive and respectful dynamic that allows both partners to flourish. Another little story. Um, his family doesn't have a good record as far as people staying married. And I had been divorced twice, so it wasn't looking good for me, according to his mother. She hadn't even met me, and he had started changing. He was going to church with me. He was going to the men's groups, which didn't even involve me, and he was becoming more of a confident man, becoming closer to Christ, um, really changing, and I was admiring that and encouraging him. So anyway, his mom on the phone noticed he was changing. He was standing up for himself when she said things, and she actually called me a she devil. You're letting her change you. She's running your life. She's a she devil, and that upset him. And I was just sitting there quietly. I was trying not to laugh. And he said, well, I love her and I'm going to stay with her. And to be honest with you, um, I'm not going to get rid of her, break up with her. And if you have a problem with that, then we don't need to speak anymore. I was amazed. Nobody had ever done that for me before. My ex-husbands, they never stood up for me like that. Um, it set deep in me, the type of man that he was becoming, the confidence and things he was gaining as he was becoming closer with Christ, and that. And that's one of the ways that I related to what Charlie Kirk was saying about the marriage, about how the man and the woman, their roles in the relationship. I thought how correct the church was. What a great decision I made on choosing that church and attending their classes and their groups. And even though there weren't any perfect people there, they were just as sick as I was in sin. Um, somehow the Lord, works his ways, and it worked out. And I'm sure had he hadn't been the right person for me, or I'm not the right person for him, it wouldn't have worked out. We had a lot of communication barriers when we first met, he had also been raised in a loud screaming type household, and we had, families have their own language, their own way of saying things, and the way my family did things and the way his family did things were very different. So when he would say a rough joke to me, what I considered rough wasn't funny. It was kind of disgusting. Um, I kind of wanted to walk away from that, but I just started communicating better and explaining that um, I didn't find that very funny. It may be funny to him and his friends, but I didn't care to hear those kind of jokes. And then on his side, he respected that and he stopped doing that. He didn't stop being jokeful. He is a very funny guy. Great sense of humor, but as far as those type of things, no. And there was a couple of bad habits he had, and one of them that drove me absolutely insane was being in a store, and he was a little bit high strung as far as like snapping that fast. If he got upset about something, frustrated, and I'm talking like somebody standing in the middle of the aisle with their cart and they don't move, you know the type. And he would just snap at me and say, "Do you mind? Get out of my way." And that would embarrass me. Because I'm the type that would walk up there and, "Excuse me, could you move over? I'm trying to get through. Or could I get past here?" And that was embarrassing. But one of the hurtful things he would do is get loud to me, like if we were in the checkout or something, and I were to start doing something he didn't want me to do. For instance, I'm putting groceries up on the belt, um, and he wanted it done a certain way. Loudly, he would say, "Would you stop it?" And I would just like want to die in a puddle right there. And I had the confidence to not leave the relationship, even though before I probably would have run far away from that type of person, because I had the confidence through other issues that we had had in the beginning, and establishing that communicative foundation in the very beginning of our relationship. I felt confident that I was still loved and that we could get home and talk about it. I even talk about it in the car on the way home, and there wasn't going to be a knockdown, drag out fight about it. Um, by establishing the boundaries in the beginning of our relationship and learning each other, that I knew that even though we had such different upbringings, that we would be able to communicate. And when we took our marriage vows, we did the I don't want to say old fashioned, but the um, the serious wedding vows with each other, and both of us meant it. We took the vows and we meant them, and we've kept them. And it doesn't feel constrictive. We don't feel trapped with one another. Um, it really is a beautiful relationship. Yes, we have our own opinions. We don't argue. We used to get a little short with each other, but like anything, it takes time, it takes practice um, to really get to know somebody and learn how to communicate and keep trying no matter what comes up. But if you have a partner that's not trying, think about that. Get to know the person really well before you jump into marriage or you start to have children. Um, and it is difficult. You can't always tell. My second husband, I thought he was going to be great. He was attentive. We were always active, busy doing things. We worked jobs together, working a campground together. No matter what it was, we both just seemed to jive. And then he started that for some reason, just going off and doing his own thing, and the lying and everything. And as he got worse, one of the things I had noticed was we had just started that church, going to that church that I told you that I found. And it was soon after we started there when he started going this other way. And this man was he was a guard at the state prison, Westville, Indiana. It's a pretty big prison, maximum security. He was a volunteer fireman for a lot of years, 20-year charter member at his old church, and we had been together 9 years, married for 6. Didn't never drank, never smoked. Um, a nerd. I say a nerd because he never did anything partying or anything. Maybe that's why he did the things he did. And I never expected him. The cheating on me was like, after all this time, dude, why didn't you just come tell me and get it over with? Or are you trying to hide it? And no. Either you want to. No, that's always been my attitude. Is you either want to be with me or you don't. And I think he couldn't understand why I didn't get angry, why I didn't throw a fit, why I didn't run after him, or I don't. It's almost like he expected me to do that, and that's not who I am. Um, you either want to be with me or you don't. It's simple as that. I'm glad that we didn't have children together. We tried, and it didn't happen. And then 3 years later, I met Mike, and we both wanted children, but a few months after dating, um, we had never even slept together. We didn't do that till after we married. But anyway, we both wanted to have children, but then I had got the cancer and had everything taken out, so that dream was over with. And at that time, we hadn't been dating very long, and I told him, I understand you want to have children. I totally understand if you want to break up as friends and go find a person to have children with. And he decided no, he didn't want to do that, that he wanted to stay with me. So we did talk about fostering, we talked about adopting. Um, we went as far as to call a foster care agency, and they came out and looked at our living environment, um, which was totally fine. It was not a bad place at all. But we had taken up the carpet with the intent of putting down new carpet, which wasn't a very big area. It was a living room, not a big area at all. Um, but the new carpet just happened to be right out of our reach, so we hadn't gotten it yet. And the baseboards we had taken off were off the walls at the time. So at that time, they said that we wouldn't qualify as foster care home for those reasons. So as it ended up, he ended up losing his job. So we left that area. Didn't get behind on rent. We paid our rent and we left when we were supposed to. So um, I guess everything works out the way it's supposed to. Um, if you if you have a relationship and your spouse, your significant other is not um, doing what they're supposed to do in life. My dad tried to warn me about my second husband when I was buying the house. I was 30, 39. I think I was 39, bought my first house. And he couldn't be put on the house because his credit was poor. He would have hurt my, annual percentage and all that. So my dad says to me, if he was going to have a house, he would have had it a long time ago. And I thought, Dad, and no, he was right. And after listening to Charlie Kirk talk about the men's world, husbands' roles and things, I thought, yeah, if he planned on having a wife and having a family, why didn't he provide a home? Um, when I met him, as upright as he had been through a divorce and evidently lost that. He was living in a trailer park, evidently lost that place, and was living with his grandparents. So after he met me, he went and got us an apartment, but I don't know. Anyhow, this has been an hour long video. You guys like, dislike, subscribe, and yeah, leave me a like or a dislike or a hi. Just let me know you watched it. And everything, no matter what it is, everything will work out. You'll see. Everything will benefit our good. And have a happy day. Bye bye.